Welcome to the deep dive. I'm really glad you're joining us today for what is a very special rugby obsession deep dive.
Great to be diving in. This Lions Tour stuff is already heating up, isn't it?
It really is. We're focusing on the British and Irish Lions Tour to Australia, the 2025 one. You've sent over a whole stack of fascinating material articles, your notes, research.
Yeah, quite a bit to get through.
And our mission today really is to unpack the psychological side, the strategies that are already playing out way before the first game.
The phony war, as they sometimes call it.
Exactly. We want to explore what makes Alliance Tour so much more than just, a series of matches, and how this war of words, as the sources put it, has truly kicked off already.
From the history to the latest tactics.
Right. We'll cut through the noise and get to what you really need to know. So if you live and breathe rugby, or you're just curious about this whole phenomenon, this one's for you. And hey, if you want to stay plugged into all things rugby beyond today, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. Keep those updates coming.
What's really striking, I think, is just how fast the story forms around a tour like this. It's not just about the players, is it? Or the final score.
No, not at all.
It's the history, the mind games, the build-up. It starts so early. And these sources give us a great look at that pre-match tension.
Okay, let's get into it then. The source material paints a really vivid picture. British and Irish Lions 2025 Tour Australia kicks off Saturday, June 28th against the Western Force in Perth.
But right from the start, it's clear this isn't just some friendly warm-up tour.
Not even close?
No. And connecting that to the bigger picture, one article stresses how these tours quickly become what was the phrase? A sporting contest of life and death.
Wow. Life and death.
Yeah. Which makes you ask why? Why is this tour, this event, always so incredibly charged? It feels almost primal.
Well, the sources jump straight into that deep history. There's that pretty astonishing story from 1882.
Oh, the revolver incident.
Yes, the heroic Wallara man bringing a tiny revolver to New Zealand.
With the idea of, quote, overawing the Maoris. Just incredible to think about now.
Thankfully, we're not dealing with actual weapons these days. But that feeling...
That core idea that it will be war. It still echoes, doesn't it? It kind of sets the stage.
It's a legacy of fierce competition.
And that historical bit, extreme as it is, it frames the modern psychological games perfectly. The sources point to the 2001 Lions Tour in Australia as a key example of how it plays out now.
Oh, yes, the GABA.
Exactly. You had 20,000 Lions fans basically take over the stadium in Brisbane, a heaving fortress of red.
Must have been quite a sight. And the Australian Rugby Union, the ARU, they weren't happy.
Not at all. They saw it as a real challenge on home soil.
And this is where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit devious.
You could say that. The ARU fought back with psychology.
They gave out free gold hats and capes to Wallaby fans.
Yeah, loads of them. And sat them in really visible premium spots.
And leaving empty yellow seats, just to boost the visual impact.
A little taste of home, the source called it, making it seem like Aussie gold was everywhere.
And playing Waltzing Matilda over the speakers.
To drown out the Lions songs, yeah. And visiting fans.
Banished, sent to distant corners.
It just shows, like the source says, sport in Australia is definitely a serious matter.
It's a whole campaign, not just 80 minutes of rugby.
Absolutely. It shows how deep this psychological stuff runs. Often played out through the media, crowd tactics. It's about setting an atmosphere before kickoff. And that war of words for 2025, it's already started.
Right. The sources give us that specific example. Joe Schmidt and Andy Farrell involved.
The coaches, yeah.
So Schmidt, known for being quite meticulous, clean cut, he fired an early shot.
He did. Made a comment that got everyone talking.
About the centers for the Lions game against Argentina, Bundy Aki and Siona Tuipulotu.
He called them a Southern Hemisphere center partnership.
Oh, okay. Because Aki was born in Otahuhu, New Zealand.
And Tuipulotu played for the Melbourne Rebels, was even let go by them at one point.
Even though Aki qualifies for Ireland through residency, and Tuipulotu qualifies for Scotland through his grandmother.
Schmidt pointed that out. He noted they were formidable players, respected them as athletes. Champion blokes, he called them.
So was it just a compliment?
Well, the source implies maybe not just a compliment. Was it genuine praise, or was it a subtle dig?
A dig at how they qualify, implying they weren't sort of traditional Lions.
The psychological angle is definitely there. You can read into it.
And the Lions camp, they responded quickly. Richard Wigglesworth?
Yep, the attack coach. He fired right back.
What did he say?
He said, everyone has earned the right to pull on the Lions jersey. It is not your background or how you have got here. It's what sort of player you are and what sort of man you are.
The strong defense.
Very clear. In this back and forth, it's exactly that needle the source talks about.
Just getting started, but it'll get a lot sharper.
Sets the scene perfectly for the tour itself.
So, moving beyond the mind games and the words, what about the actual rugby? These early comments put a spotlight on the Lions prep, right? That Argentina game in Dublin.
Yeah, Farrell's first selection as Lions head coach, a big moment for him to try things out.
His chance to put his stamp on the team, as the sources say.
And he definitely did.
So what did it mean for the play on the field? Farrell clearly has a preference, doesn't he? Size and power in the backline.
Oh, absolutely. And you can see why looking at his own playing career.
Decorated dual code player.
Yeah.
Forwards in league, which is very direct.
And a big, powerful no 12 inside center in Union.
So that shapes his thinking, physicality.
He fielded what the source calls a big back theory backline.
2 natural number 12s, Aki and Tupulotu together in the centers.
Yes, flanked by huge wings, Tommy Freeman and Duhan van der Merwe.
All over 100 kilos, the article says, the 3/4, I mean.
Every one of them. Big units.
And to balance that power.
He put in 2 relatively tiny playmakers, the source says, Finn Smith at 10, Marcus Smith at 15.
The twin Smiths, fly half and fullback, to pull the strings.
Exactly, to facilitate, create space for the big guys.
Okay, so the big question then, this big back theory, the power plus the Smiths. Could that actually work at test level against the best?
A really crucial question for the tour.
And that Argentina match gave us some early clues, didn't it? The source breaks it down quite well.
It does. What worked, and maybe more importantly, what didn't.
So on attack, there were good signs early on.
Definitely. Early signs of promise in the first quarter is how the source puts it. Farrell's approach, it seems, really emphasizes winning high balls, those contestable kicks.
Right, get the ball back in the air.
And the plan was for the Smiths, with their passing range, to get the ball wide quickly. Release van der Merwe, Freeman, Aki, Tuipulutu.
Against single defenders where their size should count.
Exactly. One-on-one mismatches. The idea of 2 big men playing together on the same edge nearly came off perfectly a few times.
And quick hands from the Smiths did set up the first try for Aki.
It did. Showed the potential, you know? When it clicked, it looked good.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Usually, yeah. The source is clear. Overall, the negatives outweighed the positives.
And that was mainly on defense.
Primarily, yes. Argentina's kicking game was apparently spot on. On the money.
Meaning they got the ball back a lot from their own kicks?
Twice as many as the Lions, the source claims. And Connor Murray, the ex-Lion scrum half, he noted something important.
What was that?
That Argentina were brilliant in the air. And crucially, they weren't just kicking to regain territory. They looked to move the ball after they win it back.
So straight onto the attack from regained kicks. Puts immediate pressure on.
Huge pressure. And it fed right into the Lions' defensive weaknesses that day.
The source highlights the smaller players, Finn and Marcus Smith, often being the ones under those high balls.
Yeah, the backfield defense often put them under the kick contest, and Argentina exploited that.
Like that example with Rodrigo Isgro, the Argentine winger.
Exactly. He beat both Finn Smith and Duhan van der Merwe in the air. Created chaos, unstructured play.
Which the Pumas thrived on.
They did. And there was another issue highlighted. Sione Tuipulotu's positioning in defense.
His tendency as a natural 12?
Yeah, to turn in on the ball carrier and lose connection with the winger outside him. Tommy Freeman in this case.
Which leaves space out wide. Something typical 13 and outside center might cover better.
That's the idea. And this apparently contributed directly to Argentina's first try.
Compounded by other errors, too. Not enough forwards at the ruck. Van der Merwe late covering.
A chain reaction of small errors, it seems like.
Yeah.
Which happens under pressure, but it led to big defensive problems.
So the verdict on the game.
Argentina fully deserved their victory, no question.
The source even suggests the score could have been wider, 28-17, if a forward pass wasn't missed.
Apparently so, yeah. Before the Lions' third try.
Yeah.
It suggests the final score perhaps flattered the Lions slightly.
So the conclusion on Farrell's experiment.
It worked in fits and starts on attack. Showed some promise there.
But defensively,
unlikely to be repeated on D. The responses were just too slow and uncertain. Defense wasn't commanding enough.
which means Farrell and his coaches, they've got some thinking to do before the main tour.
Definitely. A major rethink might be needed for that defensive structure, especially against Australia's kicking game.
Okay, so this deep dive really lays it bare, doesn't it? The 2025 Lions Tour is already this complex game of chess.
Absolutely. The psychological stuff, the tactical experiments, they're just as vital as the physicality.
That phony war is well underway. And analyzing this Argentina game gives us a really fascinating early look at the Lions' thinking and the hurdles they face.
What really stands out is how they'll adapt now. Does Farrell tweak the big backs idea, try to fix the defense, or does he pivot?
Yeah, does he change personnel or just the system? It's intriguing.
That preliminary game, while maybe disappointing in result, gave them huge amounts of data, surely.
No doubt. So what stands out most to you from all this, from this preview of the tour? And thinking ahead, can the Lions adapt effectively for that main series against the Wallabies? We genuinely love to hear what you think, your opinions on the tour.
Yeah, listener input is always great. Different perspectives.
Absolutely. And hey, for all you rugby fans wanting even more, remember the source material mentioned, the RugbyPass app.
Oh yeah, great resource.
Packed with news, stats, videos. Perfect. If you want to dive even deeper, find it on the App Store and Google Play. And don't forget to subscribe to Rugby Obsession to keep up with everything.
Definitely worth checking out if you're following the tour closely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this really fascinating Rugby Obsession deep dive.
Been great chatting through it. Lots to consider.
It really has. It's been a privilege unpacking these sources with you. We look forward to you listening to our next deep dive.